Hello, everyone. Welcome to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. This is the Going Solo with Cece show, and I'm your host, Cece Shatz. I'm the Doyenne of relationship building, and I hope that you enjoy this show as much as I'm going to do it. But before we start, we are going to talk a little bit about doing our homework. Our website is goingsolomedia.com, which is right above me here. And then also, if you want to send me a message or anything like that, an email, I'd love to hear from you. My email is goingsolonetwork@gmail.com. We're having a little bit of glitching with the internet, so it's kind of throwing me off. So please bear with me here a little bit. But we have a wonderful guest here tonight, and I'm kind of excited about bringing her on because I think that she's really going to help us with that shift, right? That shift we're always looking for to be able to move forward in our life. So let's bring her right forward here. Here she is. Hello.
Hello, how are you, Cece?
I'm pretty good. We have Vicki Nader with us, and we are going to talk about your book. You have a new book out, and it's Authenticity, Reawakening, the path to owning your life story and fulfilling your purpose. And I thought, that what finer book would that be, So tell us a little bit about, Vicki, what made you write a book like this? What kind of journey have you gone on that made you want to talk about a reawakening?
Yeah, so authenticity is so important. I mean, it really is the hallmark of our being. We're here for a reason. And, I think at the end of our lives, as we look back, we want to know that we've shown up in this world as who we truly are, or at least some aspects of who we truly are. Otherwise, we've been living somebody else's life. And so after a 4-decade plus career, I was in a variety of roles over my career, and starting out at the lowest entry level position and then ending up in the executive C-suite. What I learned, and most recently I was a chief human resources officer, but I know that without a doubt that we all have stories to tell. We all have important life moments that we have lived. And those stories really do create who we are. That, along with values, are so important. And so showing up as who you are in a way that is meaningful for you. So I sort of have, when I went on the journey of writing a book, I've always wanted to write a book. I thought, gosh, I should write about something that I know has made a difference in my own career. That being able to show up at work is who I am. And what can I pass along? So I believe that authenticity is really knowing who you are, knowing what matters most to you, and then deciding how you're going to show up in the world with that in mind. So it doesn't mean that you have to reveal everything about yourself or tell your whole life story at work. It's really about the internal work of knowing who you are and then deciding who you're going to be when you engage with others in the world.
Yeah, I thought this was really interesting because, I help a lot of people through transition of divorce and through relationship loss. And a lot of times I hear at the end of that, they don't know who they are, right? They don't,
Right.
they have a story. I mean, we all have a story. We all have a journey that we got there, but they've gotten themselves so lost within the relationship that they don't really know who they are, what they like, what they want to do after this, how can they be happy again? Where's their joy? There's so many things like that. And I thought that the part of your book that Reawakened, because that's what happens to them. They become reawakened. And then there's various steps that we have to go through in order to make that, that process start happening for them. So tell us a little bit about the reawakening part for you.
Yeah, and it seems that when I wrote the book, it was released in January, but I wasn't really thinking about the buzzword reawaken, and apparently it is sort of a buzzword now, as is authenticity. But as is true with any relationship, whether it's a work relationship, whether it is a personal, marital relationship, dating relationship, any relationship with other people, you have to know who you are in order to really engage. One of the I really dislike that term from the Jerry Maguire movie, you complete me, because no one else can complete you. You have to do the work yourself to complete yourself. And, when a relationship is about bringing two whole people to the relationship, not two half people hoping to have a whole. And so, I think that a lot of times, absolutely, the concept of reawakening to me is that in our lifetimes, we experience various things. Who I was at 21, I'm a totally different person now at 60 than I was when I was 21. And I'm a totally different person than I was at 40, and a totally different person than I was at 50. And so, I've learned more as I've gone along. So this reawakening is continuously sort of, I'll call it checking in with yourself, understanding, how have I changed? How have I grown? And what really matters most to me now, as opposed to what mattered most to me back 20 years ago or 10 years ago.
Mhm.
So, in relationships, it really is important to keep checking on yourselves, because we get so busy and our lives are so intertwined with other people, whether it's, again, work, home, marital, dating, etc., that it is easy to lose yourself. There's a lot of things going on in our lives, and it's this whole checking in. Who am I? Do what matters to me? What are my values now? How have they changed? That's just really so important.
Yeah, that's very true. I often say that you have to get in touch really with your core and
Hmm.
start understanding yourself a little bit further, and
Hmm.
what makes you happy and what do you not like anymore, but set your boundaries of what you're not going to allow in your life, and the experiences that you have. But also, I like the idea of owning your life story. And the reason I say that
Hmm.
is because often when those who have been traveling from a relationship loss, it's important for them to understand the part they played in that loss. And it's
Yes.
not to take blame, not to put blame on the other person, and not put blame on yourself, but just to take ownership of that. And if you can do
Yes.
that, when you move forward in your life, you don't take that with you, as they say, the baggage, right? You don't.
Yes.
What you do, what you take with you is you take with you a learning experience. Like, okay,
That's
this
right.
happened. I did this or that or whatever, and this is how it made me feel. I'm not going to do that again in my next relationship. Or when it starts happening, I can see it, you know.
That's
And
right. Yes.
yeah. So
And
that
you
is
know what?
definitely a reawakening.
Yes, and yes, it's just what you said, Cece. It's what can I, we all go through difficult times, and we all have difficult relationships, and all of that. But it's like, okay, what did I learn from that? And what am I going to decide to take with me or not? So, for example, there probably are some things that absolutely were not your fault, and those things, you don't have to own those. You don't have to carry, I always call it carrying the water. You don't have to carry someone else's water, but you do have to carry your own. And frankly, you get to carry your own. That's what life is really all about, is taking these lessons that we've learned and saying, okay, human beings are complex creatures. So, what am I going to discard? But what will I take with me so that the next relationship I have is a healthier, more complete relationship? And I'm taking more of my true self to that relationship, which is really, much more fulfilling than trying to sort of pretend you're somebody that you're not, only to find out later on that's not going to really work.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And this can also happen in a work environment. It also can be the same thing from a past employer or a past boss. How did that, how you felt uneasy maybe about that position, what transpired with that, what part did you play in it? You know, so sometimes, we can't always control everything that happens, but we can
Mhm.
control how we feel and how we're going to react to things. And
Exactly.
so, yeah, so that's very important.
Yes, and my book is loaded with tools. I try to make them as simple as I possibly could, but really to get in touch with. So if you've gone through difficult times in a relationship, or you've gone through difficult times with other aspects of your life, to really sort of pinpoint and put them on paper, because I do believe that when you put things on paper, it reminds you of what you've been through. It strengthens you for going forward. And then I ask the readers to sort of, and I have a lot of tables and things in the book, but then to identify, well, what are your values, which is essentially, what have I taken away from those experiences? Maybe you've learned that this is, honesty is really always the best policy, or maybe you would just say, argue with that and say, it's not really. I've learned maybe some things you don't need to say. But whatever it is true for you, that if you can sort of jot those down and say, those are my core values now going forward. And then, why am I here? I think it's really important also that we think about, why are we on this planet? And sort of, I asked the reader to kind of dive a little bit into that with me. But I do think it's important that you do that, and think about some of these experiences that we've all gone through as being a little bit like pictures in a scrapbook, that you might take those snapshots of what you've experienced. And again, this could go for work too. Maybe you had a terrible, as you said, Cece, that you had a terrible boss maybe last time, and you don't want to take that sort of angst with you to the next role. Sort of when you jot it down on paper, it's sort of like taking a picture, putting it in a scrapbook, putting it up on a shelf and saying, you know what, I'm going to acknowledge to myself that I've experienced these things, but I don't have to take the scrapbook with me to work every day, or I don't have to take it to my next relationship. If I feel nostalgic, I can take it off the shelf and dig deeper and look at those pictures and remember things and whatever. Or there may be instances where you say, I don't really want to ever remember those things again. I just want to remember what I learned from it and take that, and that's it. So I think it's just really, there are a lot of ways to get in touch with these things, but at the end of the day, regardless of the relationship, work, personal, etc., knowing who you are and knowing how you're going to show up is a continual learning process, and it's a good challenge for all of us over our lifetimes.
Yeah, I totally agree. And when I was reading the information that I had for you, it said that you had like 100 ways in the book
Yeah. Uh-huh.
listed. So, I mean, that's a wealth of information. I mean, that's a tremendous amount of information that someone can digest to be able to really, think about their lives and how they want to make that change for them, make that happen for them. And I was going to share with you too, Vicki, that I heard just today. I was watching on my little break. I watched the Ellen, I guess, is giving up
Yeah.
her show, right? And she had Oprah on, and they were talking about legacy, leaving a
Hmm.
legacy behind. And Oprah said something which I thought was really profound, is that, and then someone, I guess, shared this with her, but she said about every person that you touch in your life, every person that you share an experience with, you change their environment. And
Right.
I thought, boy, is that something? I mean, if you think about every person that you've ever talked with, you've had conversation with, for us, it would be anyone that's ever listened to the shows,
Hmm.
it goes, the wealth of individuals that you had an opportunity to leave your legacy with. So
Hmm.
your legacy to me is like your journey, right? Your story. And so when I
Yeah.
thought about the show tonight, I thought, wow, it's like, owning your life story, owning your legacy. And how are you going to fulfill that? How are you going to fulfill that purpose that you were
Hmm.
given to be able to be on this earth? And so, yeah, I thought your book would be really very appropriate. And that's why I asked for it to be on my show,
Oh, thank
because
you.
I thought that it would really definitely help people. So, what
Thank
do you
you.
think about that?
Well, I'll tell you, legacy is really interesting to me. because to your point, we often don't think about legacy, and yet each and every one of us has a legacy, and we're building that with every interaction. How do we want to be remembered? That goes back to those values. When you think about that. But I write about a guy by the name of Brian Floriani, who's in Chicagoland, and he has an organization called Bernie's Book Bank. And his grandmother and his father passed away on the exact same day. And he was he was a very successful person, and he was sitting at their wake or their funeral and listening to the eulogies. And he said he kept thinking about, everything that they're saying, all these wonderful, beautiful things they're saying about my father and my grandmother are amazing, wonderful things. And all of them are true. And he started thinking about, I know in my own wake, at my own funeral, people will be saying very nice things, but I wonder if they would be true. And so when he thought more about that, he thought, I don't think that they would be. And he completely changed his life because he said, I thought about the difference between success and significance. And he said, by every measure, I had success. Financial, I had all the cars, I had all the stuff, but I wasn't leading a life of significance. And to me, that's where, when you're thinking about who am I and what matters most to me, that's where that concept of significance in your own life is so important. And the only one that can answer whether you're living a life of significance is you.
Yeah, that is very powerful. Absolutely
Yes.
powerful.
Yes.
And I've had these kind of discussions with some gentlemen within the divorce group, because as they're they're realizing what's happened in their lives, they're busy in their younger years providing for the family,
Mm-hmm.
working, all of this. But then when the time comes when they're older, then they find themselves in a divorce and they're like, I can't understand why this happened.
Yeah.
But you didn't spend the time that you needed to spend with your family. You don't have the memories. And like I asked one guy, I said, well, how come when we talk about various different things, you talk about work and you talk about, the boat and the cars and all this stuff, but you don't talk about your children?
Mm-hmm.
And it hit him that he didn't spend the time with his kids. He just spent the
Yeah.
time working and then on the toys or whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now he finds
Because
himself alone.
Right. And because probably at some point in his life, he was taught that that's how you are a good provider. And so he was stamped with that. And I do leadership coaching as well. And this is a very common theme. So it goes back again, like, if you think about, well, my family is really the most important to me. That's a core value, being there for my kids. Then you start asking yourself, well, am I really there for my kids? And what does that look like? And that's where, the rubber sort of meets the road in terms of, well, does it mean that I am buying my kids all these different things, or does it mean that I sit and talk to my children at dinner time and ask them, how are you doing? And listening, back for what they're saying and
Mm-hmm.
engaging.
Yeah, that's very
Mm-hmm.
true. And
Yeah.
I will tell you myself, the biggest memory I have of my father is when I was little and we'd have a snow day, right? Because we lived up north and he would stay home with us and play cards. And I thought
Yeah,
that was the most grandest thing. It didn't matter about all the stuff he purchased and all of
that's
that,
right.
and the great house and stuff. When you're a kid, you don't realize it, but it was staying home with us and because he could have went to work, he stayed home with us and played
Uh,
cards, and it was awesome. So yeah, so your story, your journey, I think we take it for granted sometimes. I think
yeah.
we don't appreciate that we can control that. We have a choice of the path that we want to lead. And so your book, I thought, oh, this reawakening, it's definitely on target. And I think
You.
us being true to ourselves is certainly there. We're going to have to take a quick break. And when we come back, I'd like to talk a little bit more. Maybe you could give us, because you got 100 ways in your
Mhm.
book. Maybe you could share a few ways with us.
Sure.
Give us a little taste of that, and then we'll share with everyone how they can get your book. Now, before we leave, I want to definitely share your website, which is right here. and it's Vicki. It's Vicki, and then her last name, which is Znavor.com. So you can go right on our website, and all the information is there, right? Your book and everything is there.
Yep.
And then also you can get it on Amazon if you'd like. So
Yes.
so it's there too. So everyone, just stay with us here for a moment. We're going to be right back. And it's, this is a very interesting subject because it's one that will definitely, I think it'll just make you yourself individually feel better when you start figuring out the path that you want in your life, how you want things to go for you, and really, really home in on what your journey is, what your story is. So we'll be right back. So hang on for just one moment. Welcome back. You guys are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. This is Going Solo with Cece show. We are the #1 internet singles talk network. I am Cece Shatz, a Doyenne of relationship building. I have a wonderful guest here with me tonight. We're going to talk about her book, which is Authenticity, if I say it right, Reawakening, the Path to Owning Your Life Story and Fulfilling Your Purpose, with wonderful author Vicki Nader. So thank you so much for being with us here tonight. The first part of the show, Vicki, was really awesome because we talked a lot about your journey, really trying to own your own story, understanding the path that you have, and really kind of making a shift in your life and getting more in touch with your core values and what is important to you. So let's talk a little bit about, you have about 100 different ways, 100 ways. And so let's talk about a little bit of that.
Sure. So at the end of my book, I created a list of 100 things that everyone can do very easily just to start putting authenticity sort of at the forefront of our everyday behavior. So so the first I would say, and I'm trying to pick some that I think your listeners will be interested in, but eat even the simplest of dinners at your table instead of the couch. And the reason I say that is because I do think it helps us get in touch with some gratitude. Because if you look at your dinner, even again, it could be macaroni and cheese, ramen noodles, it doesn't matter, but put it on a plate, sit at your table, and just think about, the fact that just because you have dinner of any kind, you're one of the most fortunate people on the planet. And when you start thinking that way, that even with the simple, humble dinner, I'm very fortunate, it starts to shift your mindset about your situation. And I feel that myself too. Celebrate the good things in your life. So, again, and you define what good is. So good may be, I got a chance to go outside today and take a 10-minute walk, or I had a great call with a friend. Whatever is good for you, find the good thing every single day and celebrate it and make it feel like a celebration. Say, you know what, today was a good day. Because I think it's easy sometimes to get lost in the bad days. Um, if you make a mistake, apologize, learn from it, and move on. Don't keep carrying it with you. It's like we all make mistakes. And I would say let other people who've made mistakes with you do the same. That we don't have to keep bringing it up if they've said, I'm sorry, they show that they're sorry, that let them move on too. That's a gift that we can give to other people. And finally, stop spending time with people you don't enjoy being with.
Oh, that's a big one, isn't it? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a big one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of times I've known people who are, 60, 70 years old who say, "Oh, I'm just friends because I feel like I should be." Well, what a waste of your time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really. And it's in your energy, because when you're with
Yes.
someone that, isn't uplifting, isn't bringing you what you need in a relationship, then it's definitely going to bringing you down. So yeah, no, I totally
Yeah.
agree with that one. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
wish
that's
them
always
well and
hard
move
to
on.
do. It's
It
sometimes
is
hard
hard.
to do.
No, it's very hard to do. I totally get that. But, I think at some point that's where you then, I know the older I've gotten, the more I realize how precious and fleeting time is. And so, if I don't have to spend time with people that, don't get me or I don't get them, whatever, I just kind of say, oh gosh, I'm not really gonna engage there. I just can't. And it's better that they find people that they connect more effectively with too.
Right, right, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Hmm.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about being stuck in your story, because
Oh
sometimes
yeah.
it's a negative. Sometimes
Mm,
people, they have something negative that happens in their lives, and then they get stuck in that. It's like like this awful rewind of the bad that keeps happening to
yeah.
them. And so they can't surface and get out into the good. So what would you say about that?
Well, I guess, it comes down to asking yourself a question. And sometimes for me, I know if I ask it out loud, my poor dog who works with me all the time, he sits next to me all the time. But I ask myself questions out loud sometimes. And I would say in that situation, if you keep replaying the same negative tape, ask yourself, how is this serving me? And then if and listen for the answer. Because you probably, if you're asking that question, you probably already know that it isn't serving you well. And so then the next question would be, okay, how do I stop thinking about this? What do I need to do to kind of get rid of this tape? Or in some, maybe another question to ask is, okay, what am I getting out of this? Because you are getting something from it. And sometimes what we get from negative stories like that is we get off the hook from moving forward because moving forward is scary. So we don't want to do that. So we want to stay mired in our story about why we're stuck because that feels better than saying, you know what, I need to move on, but I'm lost. I don't know how to do that and I need help.
Right, right, absolutely. And often I hear too about victims. They get kind of stuck in that victim role, right?
Hmm.
And they don't get out of the victim role, and they just go into the next relationship as a victim. And so you want to really kind of awaken your story, I think, and try to turn it, so that you're not, and maybe getting some help, therapist or a coach or someone like that can help you dig through that, why you can't get out of that victim, because some of it is a choice. I mean, I know that things do happen to us, but sometimes we just get stuck in that all the time. I can't get out of it.
Yeah, and in fact, we may be subconsciously picking people, the next person to enter a relationship, in the person that's going to actually allow us to continue being a victim. So it's the cycle that continues to replay and replay and replay until you say, claim your life, claim what do I want in this life? What is really important for me, and what am I going to allow or not allow anymore into my life so that I can achieve it?
Wow, that's powerful. I love
Mhm.
that. Claim your life. Yeah,
Mhm.
That very well said. Very well said, Vicki.
Thank
You're
you.
awesome. You're absolutely
Thank you
awesome.
for you.
Yeah, this is a really truly a great book, and I hope that people will take the time to get it. And you were saying that you have within the book, you not only have these 100 different ways, which are basically like tips for us,
Mhm.
but you also have some graphs and things like that. Did you say in the book? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I walk you through how to identify your 5 to 7 pivotal life moments because I think it's really important to say, okay, these things really impacted who I am today. So it's important to understand what they are, and I give examples from my own life. I can tell you that, when I was 6 years old, I had an experience at school, and it was nothing really, but it ended up being an experience that created a real high sense of doing my homework, of always being the person to doing my homework, that changed who I was forever. I came from a very chaotic sort of childhood. So whatever those experiences are, they can go all the way back to when you were 6 also. But then, as we grow older, there are other pivotal life moments. A divorce is certainly a pivotal life moment. The death of a loved one is a pivotal life moment. Those things change you forever. So it's really examining what those are so that you can say, okay, I get it. I understand why I do these things. And
Mhm.
then I understand what I value. So there's another exercise to help you identify what your values are because we know our values subconsciously, but we don't always put them on paper. And I will just give a hint to the listeners that if something bumps up against your values, you're likely going to have a strong reaction, but you may not know that that's why. So this helps you identify what are my values. And then, I go into what's purpose. I also talk a lot about, I created a couple of models to help you walk through how do you handle conflict with somebody? And it's 8 steps, but it sounds a lot more complex than it actually is, but an 8-step conflict model so that you can, sort of go through a conversation with somebody step by step, sort of to resolve the conflict. And then lastly, I also say the thing that gets in our way all the time, 99% of the time, no matter what the situation is, in terms of not being able to move forward, it's because of fear. And the guy Jack Campbell, who wrote the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, he identifies fear as fantasized experiences appearing real. And I just love that when I read about that.
Mhm.
So I asked the reader to dive into what are you afraid of, and um, and I think that that's an important step to take in all of our lives. If somebody's newly single, for example, there's all kinds of things to be afraid of. And getting it on paper, if you're in a situation where you've been married for a long time and you're not happy, there's a lot of fear that goes along with what would my next life look like.
Mhm.
So, fear is something that we all grapple with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've always said that fear is the one thing that holds us back from anything that we want to achieve. And,
Yeah.
and we don't even know why we're sometimes fearful of, what it is. And so it's just the biggest blockage there is.
Yeah.
But you're great. This book is
Oh,
really
thank
awesome.
you.
It is
Thank you.
jam-packed with all kinds of
Thank
information
you.
that can help create that shift that, someone might be looking for in their lives. And yeah, so I want to thank you so much for coming
Thank
on the
you.
show. Our time is starting to come down to the end, so I want to make sure again we share Vicki's website. It's Vicki and it's Nader. It's VICKIZNAVOR.com. All of the information is on there on our website. So you guys can go and get the book. You can go to Amazon.com and get the book. Just get the book. And this is what I'm going to
Thank you.
ask you. I'm going to ask everyone if when you buy the book and you read the book, go back to Amazon and do a review.
Oh, thank
Because
you.
I think that would be a great thing. We need to push that more and let people know that these reviews on these books, if they're really truly a great book, they move you, they help get you to where you need to go. Go back and just do a little 1 or 2 line review. I mean, it makes a world of difference
It
to the
does.
authors out there. So
Thank
thank
you.
you so much for that. But I'll
Oh,
make sure I mention that more often because
thank you, Cece.
people realize it as much as what a difference that makes to do a review. Yeah.
It really does. Yeah. Thank you. And I actually have lowered the price during the month of May on the Kindle edition. And you don't need a Kindle to read a Kindle edition book. You just need to download the app. So, I just want the listeners to know I really genuinely do care about other people. And the more of us that live our purpose, the better, because the world will be a better place when we do. And people will be happier, more fulfilled. And I think every human being deserves to be fulfilled.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Now, I wanted to ask you personally, do you coach too? Are you a coach?
I am a coach. Yes. Yes. I
Okay. Yeah,
just
that I
started.
did not realize. I only got that you were an author. And so tell
Mhm.
us a little bit about your coaching and what you do, what you specialize in.
Yes. So I'm a leadership coach. I just started my practice, but I have 4 clients I just started with. Within the first 4 weeks, I have 4 clients, and
Awesome.
my goal is really to help people be more fulfilled at work, and in their relationships at work. And the way to doing that is, again, really to know who you are, what it is that you want, and what's most important to you. So, that's been great. I have both males and females, and most of my career as an HR executive, I spent coaching males. So, I'm excited about that work as well.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Thank you.
I was having a conversation with someone, and we were talking about the shift that's happening in the work environment where,
Hmm.
some of us oldies, we worked hard, and then we got the toys and we go on vacations and we enjoy life that way. We don't really enjoy work so much. Now the new
Hmm.
millennials are coming in and they've changed their philosophy. They
Hmm.
want to do a job that they enjoy, that they like doing, that they
Good
want to
for
come
them.
into work and do that. And I thought to myself, that what a wonderful thing. We should all do that. We should all do what we truly enjoy doing.
That's right.
And I think it would spread a lot of goodness around.
I
And
agree.
yeah, so speaking with someone like yourself would definitely help that if they're not
Mhm.
in the path that maybe they should be in. So
Well, I'm
that's
happy to
wonderful.
help. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you very much.
Thank
This
you.
is Vicki Nader. We can
Thank you.
find her book right on Amazon.com. So please go there and get the book. So I would appreciate it. And again, write a review. So let her know how
Thank
you
you.
liked it. Okay. All
Thank you.
right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Cece.
Wow, this went by very quickly. Everyone, please, again, go to Vicki's website, which is right here. It's VickiNader.com. It's VickiZnavor.com. You're asking yourself, why do I always spell it out? Because when we drop down into audio, those in audio can't see it. So it's very important that we do that. Again, we want to make sure that you are enjoying the show. So we ask you please to send us an email. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. We'd like to be able to help you with that. Our email is goingsolonetwork@gmail.com, and our website is goingsolomedia.com. And we have a brand new group out there. It's called Going Solo Community. And I would like for you to check it out because I think it's going to be really fun and you're going to love it. But all of our information is on our main website, which is goingsolonetwork.com. So we are everywhere. If you see Going Solo, you know it's us. I am Cece Shatz. You are listening to Going Solo with Cece, and this is WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network. Bye for now. I'll see you next